We are starting now while we wait for others to join. But let's start. Yeah, the topic before us this morning is how to establish yourself as a football agent. I know there are many things that go on along with being a football agent. My senior colleague here, the president of Profa, will take us through some points that will make you establish yourself as a football agent. After that, we'll take some questions while I will add some success tips, and we'll take questions again, then we'll wrap things up. We are expecting Jonathan from England to join us while a graph will be away because of some circumstances. So maybe next time he will join us. So, Paddy.
Thank you, Michael. The topic of establishing yourself as an agent is probably the most asked topic that I've had in over the course of 30 years. If I give a speech at universities or just in general through emails, through various social media platforms, always what I get from agents and potential agents around the world is how to establish themselves. And that's the most difficult thing for everybody. I would love to be able to say to you that there is an absolutely very clear manual or way of doing this. There really isn't. It's not that type of business. You know, it's easier in other businesses. If you wanted to establish a restaurant, very simply, you need a space. You need tables, you need chairs, and you need a chef. We don't have these finite things in becoming a sports agent, a football agent. It's a lot more difficult. There's some basic things, though, obviously, that I always tell everybody that I think certainly it depends at what stage you're establishing yourself. Establishing effectively sort of means starting out and then becoming more and more successful, in my view. I certainly, when I started out 30 years ago, my very first thing, and some of my fellow agents that I know, they're in very similar boat to this. I set about getting myself surrounded by the best people. So I looked up in London who the best football lawyer was in the UK. And I rang him and I went to meet him at his office and speak to him. And I retained him as my lawyer. Then I looked up who the best accountants were for athletes in the UK. And likewise, I went to see them. So straight away, I already, when I knew I was going to go and approach players and try to recruit players, I was able to go and speak to a player and say that the way my business runs, I have the best legal advice in the UK. I have the best accounting advice in the UK. This was a very, very big step for me when I started out establishing myself, because when I spoke to players, it gave them a very high degree of comfort that I was surrounded by the best people in the industry. Even though I myself didn't have a huge amount of experience, I kind of traded a little bit on their experience because they had a huge amount of experience. However, a huge part about being involved with those people is obviously the top football lawyer and the top football accountants. They knew many people within the football industry. So they actually helped to introduce me to a huge amount of people. And that helped me to establish networking opportunities. And networking is absolutely the key to establishing yourself as an agent. Sometimes people, I think, and when we had a previous webinar, this was apparent in some of the questions that the guys asked. I think sometimes people aim too high when they're networking. When I started, again, I'm only using my examples. Some of the people I met in some of the Premier League teams, Championship teams, were actually people like the kit man. It is immense how much power and influence a kit man has at a football club. And while all the other agents who were trying to establish themselves were trying to directly ring the CEO, the football director, they could never get into these guys and they couldn't get any responses from them. The kit man at Arsenal would tell me everything that was happening. He would tell me what players are coming off contract. He'd tell me this player is not friendly with his agent anymore. So again, that was just my personal experience. I didn't start aiming very high, but then the people that I had brought in to help me to establish myself, the lawyers and the accountants, also being the top of the football game, they helped me an awful lot. So establishing yourself is always for me about surrounding yourself with good people, with knowledgeable people, because if you start out as a football agent, maybe you don't have so many contacts, maybe you don't have many networking opportunities. That's fine. Then find somebody who is already in there. Most lawyers, they just work as business, and there's plenty of top football lawyers around the world. So by speaking to them and saying, look, I'd like to use you for legal advice if I'm going to do a deal or I'm going to recruit a player, that straight away brings those people into your circle. And that's a great platform for you to start to establish yourself, because again, those people are already heavily recognized in the industry, and they give you an almost instant credibility. And if you're already established, well, they give you an ongoing credibility in whatever way that you choose to build your business. Establishing yourself is always about reputation. It's as simple as that. I've spent 30 years in this business, and for me, every single thing I've done has always been about building my reputation. And I don't allow anything to damage my reputation. That's more important than money or anything else, because your reputation ultimately will translate into money. If people know you, trust you, that is a huge tool for you. Reputation, when you're building or establishing yourself, that comes in the form of doing deals with people. When you do your very first deal with a club, so I'm only using these as examples. If you had a player and he was fantastic, and Premier League scouts came and saw him and they wanted to sign that player, when you've done that very first deal with that club, you already now have a relationship with that club. And that's how we establish ourselves, by doing deals. That club now knows who you are. You've brought them a player. They're happy with the player. What will happen from that situation is that club will probably contact you when they're interested in other players in your region. So establishing yourself is built a huge amount on deals. Once you get 1-2 deals at any level, you already have clubs that trust you. And that's what relationships are about, trust. So establishing yourself happens almost by doing the work, by identifying a good player, doing a deal. Now I have that club that I have a relationship with. And people in the clubs also move all the time. And normally football people in a football club, when they move to another football club. Not many people work in a football club, leave there and then become a banker. They all move across to another professional football club. So your network automatically expands just by having a relationship with the chief scout, with the football director in that club. Because when he moves to another club, now you will have a relationship with yet another club, because your relationship is with him and it's transferable. However, the club he left will still have a relationship with you, because they will still remember you from the deal that you did with them. So these are kind of the things that help people to establish themselves. And onwards. Look, along the way, you will probably have some luck, sometimes bad luck. It's not always good luck. But in general terms, there are some of the basics that are controllable for people. And that's what I always say to people when trying to establish themselves: control the things that you can control. So again, surround yourself with good people who are already in the football industry.
People here.
Bring yourself into a situation where you just establish 1, 2, 3 relationships, build those relationships, and then you can just start to slowly expand from there. It's amazing how fast things happen once you have just 1 or 2 little footholds. Some of the biggest things I've done have come from people I didn't know, that just came from nowhere one day. That's purely luck, but it's luck based on I worked hard. I had built some reputation, so they had heard about me, seen me, and they contacted me. Being visible, you can be visible on social media. If you have a business, again, you can be quite visible by putting content on your website. And again, using social media. You can target social media to a lot of the football industry. Coming into associations like Michael's, the African Association like Profa. Here you will meet other people as well. Knowledge as well as what to do a deal, or even doesn't matter if it's your first deal or your 100 relations. Well, they will be very slow to work with you or deal with you. If they sense that you don't know the rules and regulations, they will most likely take advantage of you. So learning the RSTP rules from FIFA, which they've only just last week put out a new version, keeping up to date, that's something that's very in your control to be able to do, to be able to understand. Demonstrating good knowledge of the rules when you're dealing with clubs makes the clubs look at you in a very professional light and gives a very good impression of you to them, which is, again, important in establishing your reputation. Because I get a lot of people send me emails and messages asking me questions about some very, very basic rules that realistically, if they're a football agent, they should probably know that rule. If they were to ask a club that, the club would probably just not deal with them. But those are some of the things that I think are key to people establishing themselves. They're key in an ongoing capacity to maintaining and building your business. It's just sometimes thinking sideways. Most people just think the only way to establish is I need to find a player. He has to be a very, very good player. I need to do a big deal. And then things will happen for me. And yes, things will happen if you go down that path. However, that is a route that you're kind of just hoping for luck more than you're being proactive in trying to establish your business. Going out and getting involved with the top lawyers, accountants, etc. in the industry, those kinds of things, you can be proactive and speak to them. They're basically the ways, in my view, that you can establish yourself. The rest, I think, is more about any questions that you guys have that I can possibly answer, or any other directions that you want to know things in. So with Michael's permission, I open it to any of you guys to ask any questions that you have or want that I can try to answer for you.
Yeah, does anyone have a question right away before we move on? Just raise your hand. Okay, Paddy, let me ask you this small question.
Yep.
For the newly licensed agents, how do you think they can get themselves connected with the older generation of agents?
Look, there's no doubt it's difficult. I get a huge amount of emails from agents. The problem is the small techniques. When I receive an email sometimes from an agent in South America or Africa or Asia, he has already sent that email on the top to about 60 agents. So I can see I'm just one name out of a huge amount of agents. I am never going to respond to an email like that because 20 of the other guys may have already responded. I don't know, but it's a complete waste of time. So if you reach out to an agent, firstly, try and target the level of agent that you want to work with. So you can send emails all day long to Mino Raiola, but he will not respond to you. So that's just actual what will happen. So what I would say is work out what level you want to work at, identify the agents that are at that level, and then send those agents an email, but just to an agent specifically. When you reach out to him, you have to highlight to the agent what you feel you can bring to his business, because ultimately this is business. Sometimes I get literally an email and it just literally says, "Hi." I don't know what to do with that email. If it's somebody who wants to talk to me about something and they can explain in a little bit of detail, if I think I can help them or work with them, I can respond. If it says nothing in their email, I don't know what they want, and I can't waste time responding to that. So I think you have to be targeted and specific. The other way is networking. There's a lot of meetings that take place now, so it depends. If you can't travel, like I said, coming through agents associations, one of the things we're going to be doing moving forward is a lot of networking opportunities to introduce agents. and encourage agents to work with their fellow agents within that association. So there are ways of also meeting people. It's generally in the industry, it's people outside of Europe trying to get connections to agents within Europe. The problem is there's a lot more people in Asia, Africa, South America, North America than there is in Europe. So there's a lot of traffic going in towards Europe. And sometimes the guys just can't handle all the emails. But again, try to find people to connect with that are at the level you want to work with. If you go straight to the biggest agents, you most likely won't get responses from them because they're very busy. But you meet people through networking, and opportunities to network are things like your webinar here, Michael, things like agent associations. There's various football summits throughout the year where a lot of agents go. Things like the Y Scout conferences, you meet a lot of agents at these kinds of things. And you can connect with those guys there. But look, that's probably one of the biggest challenges, I think, for agents outside of Europe, is to find those contacts and connections. It's definitely not easy, but there are avenues, and there will be more avenues moving forward. With the new rules regulations, we will solidify the agents associations. We will make lists of all the agents available very easily and handily by probably next year. You'll be able to go in, look at the agents, probably speak to them within the associations and that, and hopefully build a relationship with them.
Thanks, Paddy. Another question for you. Yeah, transfer market, Y Scout, and Instat. Which one is the best? If you are to advise the newly licensed agents, what will you advise them? Which one will you advise them to go for?
I have to be perfectly honest. I don't use any of them at all.
Wow.
Look, transfer market it's okay to sort of, if you can see on there, if you were interested in bringing a player to a club and you want to try and find out who his agent is, but it's not always accurate. Many times I've contacted a player and for the agent that's there, and if he's not the agent anymore. Y Scout, Huddle, etc. They can help you with some footage of players. There's a lot of those resources. There's a whole bunch more coming out every week. There's a new version of these things, and always the owners of these companies ring me. So I think there's one coming. It's probably already up there now. Player Lens. There's Comparisinator. There's so many of these things. It depends what information, Michael, you're looking for from these things. If you're looking for footage, Y Scout, Huddle are pretty good. If you're just looking for player information, very basic, you can get that on Transfer Market. I mean, too many people use Transfer Market for the value. Transfer Market. Even the players look at Transfer Market all the time, and the players say, this guy, it says he's worth 90 million pounds, and it says I'm only worth 50 million, and they get obsessed. And I'm like, Transfer Market is a group of guys in Germany who just take the values of a transfer and try to work out what your value is. But before Neymar moved to PSG on Transfer Market, he was valued at 60 million euro. But he went to PSG for 220 million euros. So they got that wrong by about 160 million euros. So valuations are indicators which are done through analysis and algorithms. The market's the market. If you want to find out about a player, footage-wise, obviously, Y Scout, Huddle, places like that, you can see Instat, you can get all that kind of information. I don't use them as a definite business tool that, other than footage. And to be honest, if I contact the player or the agent, I'm probably, good footage and recent footage of the player.
So if you are not using Transfer Market, Y Scout, or Instat, how do you manage to market your players, your clients?
Well, my own personal business, I run a small boutique type of business. So most of the players I sign people will know them. If they don't know them, I already know all the agents I need to know, so I don't need to market them publicly. If I have a player and I know that this player is suitable to, I don't know, the Italian market, I already know all of the top agents in Italy. So I just contact them, send them directly some footage of my player. I explain to them who he is. I explain what he's capable of. I explain to them the level I think he can play to. And we don't need to go through any public social media, anything. So I just, over many, many years, have built that. So I don't need any of them. I can just do it myself to any country, anywhere.
All right. That's a good one. So if anyone has question, you can raise your hands and you go on with the question. Any question before we proceed? In the absence of question, Paddy, how can you describe developmental period in players in players transfer?
The developmental period?
Yes.
Look, transfers occur depending what region of the world you're in. They occur at different stages, different times. In the older days, it used to be people sort of had some picture in their head of time. They just, you know, historically they thought, well, if I don't leave, let's use Nigeria just as an example. If I'm not already in Europe by 18, 19, it's too late. I've missed, you know, the bus, etc. That doesn't happen anymore. Football has changed now. If you have a top African player, he could be 23, 24. And if that's when he's good enough to go to Europe, then that's when he's good enough to go. You know, I had a player here in Australia, and at 23 years of age, he was mixing cement in Melbourne. At 27 years of age, he was captain of Crystal Palace in the Premier League. So again, it's you have to understand everyone goes at different pace, different times. Basically, a player is ready when they're ready. You know, there's some indicators that help you. So in a specific position, if you have a striker and then, I don't know, if he's playing in a competition and there's 34 games a year and he's scoring 24 goals a year, clearly that player is too good for that league. So that player, no matter what his age, 18, 19, 20, 21, he's ready to go and play in a much bigger league because scoring that number of goals in that amount of games, he's outgrown that league. So statistics can help you to see the development of a player. I mean, a lot of it is with your eye. And if you've watched enough football games, you can see a defender is very comfortable. There's no attacking players that he's not able to cope with. So again, he needs to move to a bigger league and challenge himself. And every time a player goes somewhere, once he plays comfortably at that level, with regards to transfers, it's very simple. From the high add some value to him in the transfer system. If he then progresses into the men's senior international team, that again has a certain amount of value in his transfer all the time. So the transfer just builds as the player keeps moving up and up and up through the various levels that he's capable of playing at. And sometimes a player will play at a level, he'll play 8 games, and you can see straight away he's miles too good for this league. We don't have to wait to the end of the season. This guy needs to already move up fast. And it's not necessarily, sometimes the player is so good, he doesn't just move from the level he's at to the next level. He's good enough to jump 3 levels higher, for example, and really accelerate through. But it's a case of you have to test the market and test what's happening for young players. The more things they can do to help them is, again, make national teams. Because again, if they're playing in a national team, they'll play at Junior World Cups, they'll play at tournaments. And that's a place very rich with scouts, because it's easy for scouts to go to a tournament and see, 10 to 20 countries playing there and be able to watch a whole load of players rather than just traveling club to club all around the world. But yeah, you build the transfers for developmental players as they move through their career. Just naturally, the dynamics of the transfer changes. It's just about performance and making the young players understand. If you perform, the money will come, because too many of them start asking about, well, how much am I going to get paid? It's like, if you have that attitude, you will never get to the top of your level. If you have the attitude of, I'm going to play and I'm going to get really high up, the money will follow you anyway. So it's a patience thing for development players mostly.
Wow. So your advice is, young players, you have the attitude of, I want to play, not the attitude of how much 100%. Are they going to pay.
100%. I've had players, and I've had Aston Villa after the player, and then Huddersfield. And when I said to the player, you need to go to Huddersfield, can you imagine? He nearly sacked me on the spot. I said, trust me, if you go to Aston Villa, you won't get any game time. And in one season, you'll be out of the Premier League. If you go to Huddersfield, you will play many, many games, and your value will go up, and you'll get a new contract before the end of the year. And you'll play every single game, 90 minutes in the Premier League. And he did that, and that was a huge success for him. But you have to guide players through these things. I took a young player to see Alex Ferguson many, many years ago, because the player was really, really good. And everyone was telling him he was a Premier League player, and I wanted him to play in a lower division first. And when I brought him to see Alex Ferguson, first thing he said is, listen to Paddy, go play 90 minutes every week in the lower division and get yourself ready for the Premier League. He said, if you go to the Premier League, you'll be gone in 2 months. So it's about playing. The more they play, the more you can see, A, the more they can improve, but B, the more you can see them playing. If I can't see a player playing, I don't know whether he's good or bad. And if I don't know if he's good or bad, I can't tell you how much he's worth. I can't say, I'll pay this transfer and I'll pay the player X salary, because we don't know if we don't see him playing all the time.
All right, thank you. Ibrahim, your question. I'll mute yourself.
Hello, good
morning, Ibrahim.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Yes.
Ibrahim.
Hello, Ibrahim.
As a new football agent,
Go on.
hello. Okay, my question is goes like this. As a new football agent, is TMS important to you, or is just if you have the license, that's the most important thing?
Please come again.
You're just breaking up a little bit, Ibrahim. I think what your question was, if I'm not wrong, is having a license is the most important thing as a new agent. Was that your comment?
Yes, yes. And how important is TMS, the transfer matching system? How is it important to your academy?
Well, the first question is, you will shortly have to have a license anyway to be an agent, so there won't be a choice. It's, if you want to be involved in what they describe as footballing services, you will have to have a license to be an agent. So that's just, there's no choice with that. But it's a good thing anyway, because then people know this person's an actual licensed agent and we have to work with these people. So that's not a bad thing. TMS, look, the TMS, it provides some interesting details. The problem I have sometimes, the TMS tends to change frequently. It's mainly there for clubs, to match the players' details in a transfer to ensure that all the details are correct. so to allow the clubs to deregister and register a player. You can go in, you can have a look at the information on there. It can tell you, things about a player's history, all that kind of stuff. You can see where he's been and that. But I personally don't. I have TMS. I don't really use it much. I don't, unless there's a complication with a transfer for a player. Then I go into the TMS, check that the clubs have inputted all the correct information to ensure the transfer goes through. Definitely with licensing, it's so important that you will have to have one, Ibrahim, moving forward.
Ibrahim.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay. Let me ask this, Paddy. How will you advise a newly registered agent about
Yes, Michael?
their record keeping? How important is record keeping in football business?
It's important for you as a business because a lot of things go wrong in transfers, and if you keep good records, it can be very, very helpful. In some countries, you have to demonstrate records now. So, for example, in the UK, agents there now have to keep a record if they're doing a deal with a club for a player if they have WhatsApp text messages between them and the club, they have to hold on to those, and they have to, if asked, show those. If they have emails, they have to show those emails. Basically, in the UK, agents are being asked now to demonstrate the amount of work they have done in a deal, and they have to do that with texts, WhatsApp, emails, any other exchanges they've had. Keep a record that they went to the club at a face-to-face meeting with the football director. It took, I don't know, an hour, and it took an hour in travel. So it's starting in some countries to be important. For me personally, I keep records and transfers just to be able to say, sometimes if a guy goes back on a deal and he's made promises, for me, I like to go back and say, well, actually, no, you sent me a message here on this date and it says exactly this. So now you've changed the whole dialogue. Or if it's an email that says, I'm going to do this, I'm able to show the guy that, no, you've promised this and you have to do this now. So records are important for disputes. They're important just as a good business practice, good routine. And like I say, in some countries, records may even be something that you will be asked to produce.
Go on. Hadi, go on.
Sorry, Michael?
Okay. I thought you are still speaking.
Oh, no, sorry. Sorry, I finished.
Okay. Anyway, finally, from my side, the training compensation. So some teams, after transfer, teams, clubs do take training compensation, solidarity fund. How will you feel if FIFA put it in their new regulation that agent too should be taking training compensation or solidarity fund? Or is it possible for FIFA to put it in the new regulation?
Oh, well, they're the governing body. It's possible. Whether they will do it, I don't know. But it's something at Profa that we are looking at and we want them to do. We argue with FIFA that, and you get this a lot, particularly in regions like Africa, for example, where agents spend time, money, effort, looking after young players, maybe, from the age of, I don't know, 16 to 19. And suddenly when the player's, doing very well and he's ready to sign a pro contract or transfer to Europe, some of the big agents come along and they take the player off the agent in Africa, or a club just comes directly. And, at the end of the day, that agent spent 3 years of time, money, effort, time away from his family. So our argument with FIFA is we pay clubs training compensation. And originally the history behind training compensation is, well, these clubs, they have costs, they have to build their grounds, they have facilities, staff. And my argument to FIFA is that they've already paid for their grounds many, many years ago. The staff they have to have anyway. So you're talking about costs that they have to have, but we recognize that they have played a part in developing the player. But agents play a part in developing a player too. Without the advice, the guidance, and sometimes the financial help that agents give to these young players, maybe the player doesn't get there. So we would like to see that these, but at some point, FIFA will introduce something to work out, hey, you know what, an agent has put time, effort, money, he's due some compensation if the player has left, or some form of compensation for the agent. I think it's only right that, again, agencies are businesses too, because they always say to me, oh, the club is a business. I'm like, that's exactly what agencies are. Agents are businesses too. If I owned a cafe, that would be a business too. They just need to get their head around it at FIFA. I think with agents, they just see an individual and they don't understand most agents or agencies are just their businesses, and you have to treat them like a business. And if we put time and effort and money into something, we expect to receive something back and be compensated for that. And I don't think that's unfair to demand that. Particularly, like I say, there's certain regions where it's far worse than in other regions. But we want Michael to push hard to get compensation or recognized somehow, even if they keep it as training compensation to the club. For the period of time the agent was in charge of the player, for example, we can say, right, well, from the club's training compensation, you have to pay a percentage of that to the agent so he can recoup his investment in the player. But yeah, it's a strong issue for us, and something we will fight hard to push. I'm sure you've got members in here that have had these things happen to them in the past, so they probably understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's a problem in many places.
That's great. Let's see if there is question from the audience. Anyone with questions, please raise your hand.
I
must have explained everything very well.
Yes, I think it's good.
Yes, but I still have a question.
Okay,
yes,
Brian.
Yes, how important is it for an agent to establish a camp? Because here in Nigeria, you see a lot of agents, they have their camp where they will keep their players for some time, for them to develop those players. Then from there, they can get clubs for the players.
Okay, so again, sorry, Ibrahim, if I understand you, did you say the word camp? So they have their own camps, like a camp academy style? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, some academy, some just a little camp for players, so that they can.
Yeah.
Such agents.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, go on, Paddy.
Yeah, there's many agents and agencies around the world that have, their own small camps, academies. They're different all the time. Sometimes it's a place where, the agent maybe knows some good coaches, and it's not enough to advance them very quickly. That's a space where the agent says, by also coming to my school, my camp, he's going to be able to get extra training from good coaches, and this is going to make him a better player. And again, this comes back to what Michael said previously. That's an investment that agents are putting into players to make them better players and then turn them into good footballers, which in turn, as a business, that makes them an asset for your business. So when you're able to do it and you can afford to do it and you have the right people to help you to do it, you should do it. What you shouldn't do is do it if you can't afford to do it. If it's not achieving its goal, then you probably have to look at closing it down. But generally speaking, these schools and academies normally work in tandem with a club where the player's playing, because obviously in the clubs they're playing national competitions and stuff. It's normally supplementary work to make him a better player. And if that's what it does do for the player, then in my opinion, that's a good thing.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
No problem, Abraham.
Global skill. Global skills.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi there.
Oh, so my own question is, how can we help our African players to link them abroad? At least to work on players in Africa, it's very difficult for us to get them profile, because their facility here is very poor. And one of our platforms today, people are complaining of video productions for players. As an agent, how can we help in that direction to make sure we get a very good, and due to the pandemic now, most of them, they have access to go for trials. But for us to push them there, we need to show some videos, but we don't have good production. What can you say? How can you explain how we can go about that production as getting a good video for players? I don't know who to talk to get us a very, very good videos for them.
Well, I don't know. I'll just use an example here in Australia, for example, the PFA for any player will put together video footage, and it's very, very good. They go through all the players' footage and they make about 5-7 minute footage reel. That's very high quality, and they give it to the agent, or they give it to the player and the player gives it to the agent. So if I have a player, I will ask him to ask the PFA to put together his footage, most recent, of good highlights. He will then send it to me when he receives it. Takes about a week or two. And then, I through my network and my contacts, I will email that overseas. They get a good picture of the player, and if they have an interest, then they will invite him on trial, or maybe even just make an offer for him. Outside of that, most of the guys I know, they just find independent people to put together the footage, and you just pay them a fee. And some of them do it quite good. A lot of players actually down here, and certainly a lot of players in Europe, they do it themselves, especially the younger players who are very good on social media and all that. They get some good footage together from YouTube, cut it all down, and make some good highlights packages themselves. My players frequently send me, without me asking, YouTube videos of their footage, and some of it's really good. Probably because they have too much time. They need to be, if they have that much time, they should be out training again. But yeah, here it gets done for you. Certain other PFAs around the world, they will do it for the players as part of a service. I don't know in Africa if the various national associations do that for you. If not, you just have to get independent people, or like I say, most people just go on YouTube, get the footage, break it down. Also, generally, I will speak to a club. Most clubs video their games. So I will go to a club and I will say, so the player will tell me my 3 best games were this. I will go to the club and I will say to them, can I get some footage, or can you send me those 3 games, and then just take out the good pieces. But yeah, that's generally how, because again, the footage is pretty important, especially just to capture that initial attention in Europe. they want to just see, and you show some good passages of play from the player. They can see he's fast, he's strong, he's this, he's that. It's a great shop window, and it's, you know, sometimes guys send me emails with like 5 pages of written CV, and I'm like, mate, please, a 3-minute piece of footage would do a lot better.
3-minute video footage is better than 5 pages of CV.
Oh, 100%.
That's a great one. Anyway, you've heard Global's case. 3-minute video footage is better than 5 pages of CV. So work on video footage for your players. Yeah, let me ask.
All right. Thank you very much.
The video footage, is it the job of, is it the responsibility of the agent or for the player? Who is to produce
Should be
it?
club.
Or the club?
It's the agent. Well, the agent needs it to sell the player, so it's a tool for the agent. But it's normally a collaboration. I mean, if I have one player and he wants me to go and put footage together, if I have to go and watch 15 games of football, how many hours of my time is that going to take up? That's why I say, if a player comes to me, the players all know where they've played well and where they haven't played well. So I just say, tell me your 3 best games. Now I don't have to watch 15 games of football. I only have to watch 3. That's more manageable. And like I say to the player, if I spend 34 hours of my life watching your old games, that's 34 hours I'm not doing any work for you, because I'm off watching old games time and time again. So it's a collaboration. I mean, I always take the attitude when I manage an athlete that we are a team. And so the more he helps me and the more I help him, as a team, we advance a lot faster and further. So yeah, and sometimes the players like to do it, actually, I find, especially the younger players. They love breaking up footage and making videos, and then sometimes the mother will come along and she'll start throwing in a whole bunch. Oh, well, my son had a great pass. I'm like, just 3 minutes, sweetheart. We don't need 3 hours. But yeah, it's a team effort for me.
It's a team effort. Thank you, Paddy. Any more questions? Abajide?
Hi, Michael. No question from my end for now, right? Just processing all of the information. Thanks.
Okay. Philip. I can see Philip here. I see Joshua. Yeah, lastly, Paddy, what are the tips that you can give to the agents on how to establish themselves?
Just mainly, like I said at the beginning, Michael, it's about surrounding yourself with the best people. I mean, that's my number one goal. Every single country that is serious about football, I work with the best lawyer in every country. So the top football lawyer in Germany I work with, top football lawyer in Spain, Italy, England, everywhere. Same, I work with the top accountancy firms in all of these countries that already have huge expertise in doing the accounts for footballers. And they're things that are easy to do because they're businesses, and generally they don't turn away business. So surrounding yourself with good people is a huge, huge part. I mean, I wouldn't be talking to anyone today if I didn't do that. Secondly, you know, it's about establishing a reputation, but you do that through transfers. Once you have a relationship with one, you only need one single thing to start with. That's all I had. You get one single breakthrough. And from that, if you're smart, you network out from that breakthrough. So just one deal to one club, relationship with that club. And you speak to the football director and you say, you know, guys over at this, or you know, guys there, and you become friendly, and he'll make introductions. but also, like I said, man at some of these clubs, and the best things ever. They know everything in a football club. And then, like I said as well, joining organizations, where you can meet other people. So through the African Agents Association, through PROFA, you can get to meetings, you can meet people, you can chat to them during the meetings and say, hey guys, can I speak to you after the meeting? I've got something I want to discuss with you. Because it's growing your network is a big important part, particularly when you're working in regions like South America, Africa, Asia. You need to grow your European network, because ultimately we're all export markets to Europe. That's where the majority of the money is at the moment anyway. Look, I'm very excited for Africa, because I can tell you, in just about every single European club, they know the amount of absolute phenomenal athletes that come out of Africa. There's been so many fantastic players in every league in Europe that come out of Africa. So they know that the next big thing is somewhere in Africa. Problem is, so many people are just sending the football directors information, and when you probably need to just aim a few levels below that. If a player is good enough, they will find them. There's so many ways now that clubs can identify talent and hear about players. It's just about being smart. So again, like the gentleman from Global Skills said, nice piece of video footage of your player. Don't send an email that has 30 football directors named on the top, because they will see that you sent it to everyone and they just will throw it in the bin. They'll say that's, he's probably already spoken to 10 of the other guys. So just very specifically send it to the person individually. Highlight, obviously, the video footage, and then just highlight how good the player is. Yeah, look, some things are controllable. Like I said, surrounding yourself with good people, that's controllable. You're going to need some luck. If you're going to get to the top, like any industry, you're going to need some luck along the way. But my attitude is always, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And you can go through a long patch. Let me tell you, even for guys who make good money at the top end, we can go through a patch of like 12 months and maybe not have a transfer. But you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And when next thing you know, you'll have about 8 transfers, and you don't even have the time to get it all done. So it's a very up and down market. What you want to do is try and build a business that's just nice and steady, and you know that, hey, if I can do these 6 transfers at this value every year, I have a good business and a good livelihood. And from that, I will build from 6 every year to 8 to 10 to 12. And eventually you'll end up doing, I do a lot of brokering between agents or clubs, and you will end up getting that kind of work as well. So that maybe you don't have clients ready to move, but you can help other agents to do a deal. Or you can help a club that has a good player, because now you'd have built up a network and you'll have some contacts to clubs that can buy the player, so the club will need your help. And obviously that's a revenue stream for people. But yeah, they're mainly the basic tips, Michael, to helping guys to establish and push on. It's a patience game. Same as I tell the players, it's a patience thing. It's for agents, it's also a patience thing.
That's nice. Surround yourself with good people, establishing your reputation, joining organization, association, attending seminars and conferences. And you need a little bit of luck and patience. That is 5 or 6 important tips. Thanks, Paddy. Before we wrap it up, I would like you to say something about the new regulation, the new FIFA regulation. We are all agents here. What is the stage of the regulation now? When are we expecting the regulation to take up? Just say something a little bit, 10 minutes.
Sure. So you probably have all read at some stage and heard about FIFA, and we have been negotiating with FIFA since March of 2018. they're going to bring back in rules and regulations. The main reason that they want to do all of that is obviously you see a lot of the top agents in world football taking 10, 20, 30, 40 million pounds out of deals. That left a very bad taste in not just FIFA, but many of the football stakeholders' mouth. They just feel it's getting crazy. It's getting to a stage where that's too much money in one deal to get 40 million pounds. And I think it would be nice if it was you or I in that situation. We wouldn't complain, but probably only 8 guys in the world will be in that situation. So for the rest of us, we don't make that kind of money, but most people agree that that's probably too much to get that kind of commission out of a deal. So that was the reason that they wanted to bring in rules, change the rules and regulations, bring back licensing to have more control over this kind of thing. They've given us 2 drafts of rules and regulations. We don't agree with a lot of the things. Obviously, they put out a salary cap of 3%. They had no intention. They know that there's no way we would accept that. So that was just done as a negotiating tool. If I go to a car yard and the car is for sale for $20,000 and I say to the guy, I'll give you $4,000, I know he's not going to take $4,000, but he will come back with something else. And that's the stage we're at with FIFA. So we can expect in probably the next 2 to 3 weeks that we'll receive the 3rd and final draft of rules and regulations, the new ones. We will look through that, see what it contains. And obviously we will speak to as many agents that we can speak to and organizations like the African Agents Association to get all of your thoughts. And yeah, we have to then just go back and continue to push FIFA and fight. They will introduce licensing from January of next year. And we have asked FIFA for details in terms of when will the exams be held. We want them to give us information about what the exams will look like, because we want to try and have our own programs to help agents to pass those exams. But the last thing we want is agents to be panicked. Like we explained to FIFA, for 6-7 years now, people have been building a business, and some of them are just really good people and they put a lot of time, money and effort in. And if they don't pass an exam, you can't just kick them out, because that means their business is going to go down. And what are they supposed to do after all the time and effort they put in? So we want to make it very fair. We want to help agents to pass the exam, receive their license, and we will do that. And then the actual rules and regulations, they wanted to bring those in March of next year. We said, no, that's too soon. We can't do that. There's a lot of things that we still need to negotiate. And so probably the rules and regulations won't come into effect until June or July of next year, which is 2022. In the meantime, again, working with the African Agents Association, with PROFA, and with the North and South American Agents Associations, we will be in at FIFA all the time, working and pushing and constantly trying to get the regulations so they get to a fair stage, because we feel that currently today they're not fair. And with these organizations set up, we will have a seat at the table anyway, just from now until whenever. We have a stakeholder group that we're able to go in and say, even after the rules and regulations, hey, you know what? Article 3 doesn't work. We need to change it. We need to amend it. Article 5, we need to delete it. It's terrible. Or we can introduce new ideas and we can introduce new rules that we want to see. So earlier we spoke, Michael, about compensation for agents who invest in players and then have the player taken off them. Those kinds of things through a stakeholder body, we can always go in and continuously negotiate and talk with FIFA. So when I speak to agents around the world, especially in regions like Asia and South America and Africa, I sense a little bit of panic with the new rules and regulations coming in. I understand that totally. That's completely normal. What I would say is you've got a very strong group of people, though, fighting to ensure that it's not so scary. And we will do everything to make sure it's not scary. Our job, organizations that exist, but they're there to protect the top echelon of agents, only sort of a group of about 20, 30 people. We're here to make sure agents like all of you guys here, agents in Asia, agents in South America, that you all have a voice. And when we come to you and we say, here's the rules and regulations, what do you think? Give us all your ideas, all your thoughts. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, and it doesn't matter if you think it's a crazy idea, I'm too embarrassed. Send it. We don't care. We just want to hear what everyone has to say. From all of that, we will formulate a response and a strategy to go back and negotiate with FIFA moving forward. So that's probably 2 to 3 weeks, Michael. We will receive the rules and regulations. You guys are an affiliate of PROFA, so you'll receive a copy of that to look at. And yeah, and then you guys as members and stuff and agents will give your thoughts. And then we take that back in, but probably I'm guessing July of 2022, the agents will come into force. And also as we get information regarding licensing, what it looks like. So I think in one of our early PROFA meetings, we had a member from Ghana, and the pass rate is 80%. And they said that's very high. So straight away, I think FIFA will agree to reduce that. So instead of giving you 20 questions, you have to get 16 right. Probably you'll only have to get 15 right. So we get small wins here and there. Another actual African PROFA member, he wanted an extension on the contract because he said 2 years is too short by the time he invests time in a player. The 2-year period, that's when the player is now ready to start getting a pro contract, but he leaves him because a bigger agent takes him. So he wanted to see minimum of 3 years. I can tell you in South America, they want a 5-year contract between the player and the agent. So anyway, FIFA think,
5 years is
sorry?
better. I said 5 years is better.
5 years, 10 years is great, but maybe we end up with 4, but I think already they will consider 3. So like I say, these are just normal guys like me and you guys here putting out ideas. We've taken their ideas, we presented them, we've pushed FIFA, and I think FIFA agree to those things. And we'll continue to do that moving forward. Whenever people say, hey, this isn't working and we have issues or problems, we hopefully will have a stakeholder body that can go in and take up the conversation and say, look, this isn't working for everybody. Again, for us, it's about making sure that the rules are for agents in every place in the world, not just for the top 20, 30 agents in Europe. There's about 13,000 agents in the world. There's no point in having rules and regulations to cover 30 people.
All right, thank you. Finally, from me, FIFA clearinghouse. How can you explain it for the benefit of the newly agent here?
Sorry, Michael, just the first part, I couldn't hear you.
I said the FIFA clearinghouse. How can you explain it?
The FIFA which, sorry?
The FIFA clearinghouse.
Oh, the FIFA clearinghouse. That's just a way of trying to make payments transparent. So basically, whenever there's a football transfer, it's a little bit like the TMS system. All the details of a transfer will have to go through the clearinghouse, who the agents are involved, what fees are being paid, how much money to all the parties. Everything will be very transparent and clear in the clearinghouse. Again, this is another area that we need an awful lot of detail on because, so for example, if the intention is to publish publicly all of the details in a transfer, that can cause a lot of problems. If one of you chaps here did a deal and that was put on the clearinghouse and then people could see it and they could say, hey, you made $200,000 from that, that could make you a target for some very bad people. So there's issues around safety, privacy, because I can tell you that already happens a lot. I don't know if it happens in Africa, but if I do a deal and all that, I normally get phone calls from the Russian mafia or the Balkan mafia, give us this, or we're going to kill you, etc., blah, 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 all the usual stuff. But if people can see this published all the time, every time you do a deal in your own locality, I don't know, there's people that you probably don't want to see. So we don't know yet exact details, but if that's the case, then that's an issue we will raise with FIFA, and we will say agents need to be protected. They need their privacy. You can put all the details in, but not make it public. And again, I think that's more for the big guys. So It's probably designed to say, right, in this deal, you can show that Jonathan Barnett's made £20 million. But again, to be fair to Jonathan, it would make him a target as well. So yeah, but the clearinghouse is just every detail regarding a transfer will be in there. Payments to the agent, who the agent is acting for, how much the club have paid, who the club have paid that money to, and ultimately they will see in the whole of this transaction there was £30 million involved, and in the clearinghouse system they will be able to account for every single penny of the £30 million. That's how it's designed to be. I think anybody who's been an agent for a long period of time knows that there will most likely be a lot of payments outside of the clearinghouse also. It's very difficult to prevent that.
All right. There is one small question here for you, Paddy, from Thompson. He said, please, I need to know what is involved in collaborating with a foreign agent. So 30 seconds.
I'd say to you always, first of all, read the RSTP, the rules on the status and transfer of players, FIFA rules, so you understand, because they're global. Collaborating with a local agent, sometimes the rules, each country has the ability to change them slightly, depending on their market or the laws of that country. So you do need to work with foreign agents because they will understand those parts. Plus, when your player is on the ground, if something happens, there's a guy there who can get in his car and go and help the player or do whatever. But collaborating with them takes time, and that's just built on trust. After you do one deal, two deals with a guy, you will have a relationship, and you just have to maintain that relationship. When I do deals with foreign agents, frequently we do 2, 3, 6, 12 deals, and some of them I've been doing deals with for 20 years. That's just how you get to know them. But it's important to collaborate with them, but it's important that you know the rules so that they don't take advantage of you. But yeah, collaboration is a relationship thing with a foreign agent. So pick the right one. Try and look at his track record. You can probably tell some guys, sometimes there's articles about agents who've been suspended and stuff like that. So probably run an agent's name through the internet to see if anything comes up. If it doesn't come up, then you just start to build a relationship and you keep that going. And the more success you guys have, the more deals you do, the stronger your relationship will be. And he in turn will introduce you to more foreign agents that you'll be able to collaborate with.
All right, thank you, Paddy. Maybe with the next 10 minutes, we are going to wrap it up. But I have some tips here, tips for success as an agent. Number one, from my own side, is you should have a clear-cut vision. I mean, what is the vision behind being a football agent? You have to have a clear-cut vision for you to establish yourself as an agent. Number two, from my table here, is passion for excellence. At least for you to be a football agent, you need a high rank of passion for the business. Number three, understanding the market. You have to study the market, which part of the market you want to invest your time on, maybe European market, the African market, the South American market. You study it, then you understand the market. And number four is what I call man management. What I mean by man management is sometimes players are difficult to manage, but if you have the spirit, I mean, if you embrace the spirit of man management, no matter how difficult the player is, you could be able to manage it. Let's take, for example, with due respect to Mario Balotelli, as Mario Balotelli is. See, today, Balotelli still have an agent. He's still working with someone. So you manage the player very well. So another one is record keeping. I've asked Paddy before. You have to embrace the habit of keeping records. Bookkeeping If you have to study bookkeeping, maybe for 6 months, you go for it. It's part of what you need. I remember sometimes last year, there is this NGO from Switzerland. They called me. They asked me, what do I need the agent need to study? What new courses can I advise agent to study? I said bookkeeping. And the president asked me why. I said, so many agents from Africa don't have records of their last year deals. And it's dangerous. In some part of the world, if you don't have record, you are going to jail. Like in England, you must submit records of your deal last day before you can do another one. So bookkeeping is as important as the food you eat in football business. Then the next one is identify your challenge. There are challenges in football business, so many challenges. So if you can identify your challenge, then you will conquer it. Some challenges are connection, some are money, some are how to market their players, how to project their players. Once you can identify the problem, then you can solve it. The next one is money management. When you make a deal, you make money, try to manage the money like Paddy said the other time, except for the bigger agents, so they can go 12 months without a deal. So the one you do, the last deal, if you don't manage the money well, you will go bankruptcy. So money management is important. The next one is invest in technology. Yeah, if you make money in football, invest in technology. The likes of Y Scout, Instat, Transfer Market, though our guest speaker don't use any of them, but I can recommend them for you. You can go for it. And there are so many technology in town now whereby you can that can be useful for you to identify good players while playing on the pitch. The next one is good communication. Yeah, you must embrace the habit of good communication. If you are writing me and I don't reply, you don't need to abuse me. Keep sending message. One day I will reply your message. Good communication is important in football business. And lastly, training and development. You have to get trained, keep training, and keep developing yourself until you're retired. Thank you for having me. That's my tips for today's program. Paddy, you want to add anything?
No, Michael, I think all the tips you mentioned are fantastic, all very, very relevant to the business. Talent identification is the key, and then managing your relationship with the player is very important, because that's a strong part of when you're developing a young player, of preventing him from leaving if a bigger agent comes to try and take him. Relationships are key, but also sometimes when a player is very, very good, too many people tell him what he wants to hear. Everyone who knows me knows I never tell them what they want to hear. I'm the guy who tells them what everyone else is not telling them, that he had a bad game, he did this rubbish, he did that rubbish. But I do it to try to help them, not to try and hurt them. And most of the guys I look after, they understand that and they appreciate that, because we have a strong relationship. But mostly in your businesses, you will have two sort of main ways to go about it. And it's a global thing, not just you guys. My business, I operate a boutique business, so I only ever manage up to about 20, 25 people at a time, because that's enough time of my time to put onto that. The rest of the money I make from brokering deals, because over many years I've built my reputation. The other way to do a business is what a lot of people do, is they try to sign as many players as they can and have 60, 70 players. It just depends. That's a very, very difficult thing to do unless you're a very big agent with big money and you can hire staff to help you, because if you have 60 players and if only 30 of them ring you today and spend 20 minutes on the phone, that's your day gone on the phone just with 20 guys. If all 60 ring you in that day, you're working 24 hours that day. and sometimes it's a guy ringing, hey, can you get me free socks from Nike? And it's a 30-minute conversation. So time management is very important when deciding what way you're going to take your business. And I see many people that will always go down the road of, if I sign the most number of players, probably there's a Leo Messi in there. They play the numbers game, as I call it. And then sometimes the numbers game will help you and it will work. And if you're able to do it and you can manage the time to do it, do it. But many other businesses are boutique agents and they just say, you know what, I'm going to have 20 odd players. 5 are going to be real quality. Another 5 are going to be middle of the road, and the other 10 are going to be young development players. And they have a strategy behind their business as to how they want to do it. That's certainly the model that I adopt. And I have done the numbers game model when I was younger, and it was a nightmare. Trying to keep all those guys happy at the one time, many different problems happen at the one time. You'll go crazy. You might make money, but you'll go crazy making it. And we all probably want to make money smartly if we can. But they're kind of the two ways that you're going to do. But all the tips Michael's just given you, they're relevant to either direction that you choose to go in. But no, like Michael said, have a clear vision of what you want your business to be. If you don't have a clear vision, you're going to work every day without realizing what I'm working for. So it's important. But yeah, that's all I have, Michael, and thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the audience?
Yep.
We have just 5 minutes to wrap things up.
Good morning, everyone.
Martin's from
Hello,
Mozambique.
You're on mute, Martins. Martins, you're on mute. I don't think he can hear us that he's on mute.
We can hear you. Hello?
Martins,
Martins, you're on mute.
yourself.
We can't hear
Are
you.
you there?
We can't hear you, Martins. You're on mute.
Unmute yourself, Martins. Okay,
Oh,
you're
okay.
on.
We couldn't hear anything because you were on mute.
Okay. Yes, I said good morning, everyone. FIFA agent from Mozambique, business from 2011. I wrote examinations before. Now I'm intermediary. So I would like to know how to become a member of African Association of FIFA agents or intermediate agents. Because in Mozambique, we are only 3 licensed agents from 2 years ago. So I don't know how to be a member and to receive all communications from your side.
Okay, Martins.
Okay, you can contact Michael about that.
From a chat, you can send me your email in the chat.
Okay.
So I will send information to you.
All right. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alexander.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning from this part of the world. My name is Alexander Alariwaj from UK. An agent from UK.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, all. Most importantly, I commend the organizer of this
Training.
this training and seminar, and kudos to Paddy for the information, for the massive information that he has been able to dole out to us. And I commend Michael. All those tips that you've actually highlighted, they are very, very interesting. if we really want to succeed as agents in the game. By and large, I think you actually hit the nails on the head with the highlights, because I've actually dealt with a couple of people from the African sub-Sahara region, and their record keeping has been so porous and terrible. The transfer window is more than buying and selling. There are lots of things like Paddy has actually highlighted as well. But most importantly, I think in this game, you cannot do it alone. We cannot do it alone. It's a networking thing. And like Paddy keep hammering on trust, that is the basis of everything, because it goes a long way. Once that can be established, then I think we are all ready for business. And if this kind of seminar or training can be ongoing on a regular basis, I think that will really help even myself, because no one knows it all. I think it will really help us a great deal, so that at least that will sharpen our information and our way of operation on a regular basis, because the football world keeps changing every time. So if this can be an ongoing thing, and I think it will go a long.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Alexander, it's a very good point you make. And just again, when I started 31 years ago, there was nowhere for me to go and ask anything. There was nobody for me to have a discussion like that. Well, we didn't even have Zoom in 31 years ago. We probably didn't even have laptops. I can't remember. But that's a big difference for guys now, that you can have meetings like this and you can share ideas, talk, ask questions. I mean, for me, always a sign of lack of intelligence is when you don't know. I don't know something, I go and I find someone who does know the answer, and they will tell me, and I will learn from that, and I will do that the next time again and again. But we didn't have any opportunities to have, when I started, maybe 100 football agents in the world. They would never speak to you. Everyone was trying to build a business and was very, wary of the other person. So you couldn't ring one and say, hey, you're a bit older, more experienced, can you tell me something? That they wouldn't talk to you. So you have a much better opportunity now in these days to ask questions, get answers, and hopefully give you some good information to build a business.
Martins.
Hello?
Yeah, you raise your hand. You are on.
Big up.
No, if you forgot to remove the hand.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All right. In the absence of questions, can we round up for today? Paddy, your parting word.
Our parting words are, look, it's difficult. This is a very difficult business. However, it's a very rewarding business. You will have a lot of difficult times, difficult days, weeks, probably months even sometimes. But if you continue to be with people like the group here and in associations and continue to talk and meet people, You will get there. It's the amount of times I nearly stopped and quit over 30 years, I can't tell you, but just from keeping on going, keeping trying, you will get there eventually. You just surround yourself again with good people. People are here, and in as many places as you can find good people. The rest is passion, as Michael said. You have to have a passion for the game, because the players will see if you have passion or not when you speak to them. They'll know whether you're. Sometimes I see agents. There was a guy who worked in an office as an accountant, and today he woke up and he wanted to be a football agent. But the players can see that the guy didn't know anything about football. So, passion for your business. And yeah, whenever you need things, come to people like Michael, to the African Agents Association, looking on Profi's website. But just keep going. Again, there's hard times in being a football agent, but there's some fantastic times too. How will you feel if someday a player takes to the pitch in a World Cup one day? I know that you've been on the journey, you've made good money, he's made good money, and he's your protege, and now he's on a World Cup pitch. I've done that with players that I've managed since they were 14 years of age, and then I see them on a World Cup pitch playing against France, and I just think, wow, what a journey that was. So it's very rewarding. There's a lot of difficult times, but just keep going and surround yourself with all the right people. And I wish every success to all of you with your businesses.
Thank you, Paddy. Thanks for your time. I know by now it's late in Australia. It's around 10 p.m. or so in Australia. Yeah, so you're about to sleep.
Oh.
Yeah, it's some minutes to 12 noon here. So I want to appreciate your time and your experience. Paddy Dominguez has over 30 years experience in football business. So he has been a football agent for the past 30 years. So he has a lot of experience, and we are happy to have you in our midst today. We hope to see you when next we call on you. Thanks so much. To the audience,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I want you all to appreciate Paddy on my behalf.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Paddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paddy.
Welcome.
One more thing.
Thank you, sir.
Paddy
Very
is
welcome,
the
guys.
president of Professional Football Agents Association, PROFA. So he is the president. And they are doing wonderfully well in discussing with FIFA on the FIFA regulation. So next on our training is on the 24th of this month. We are having a face-to-face and online training in Lagos, and it will also be online. Maybe we will invite Paddy too. He will be maybe to give us 30 minutes to share his experience.
No, you will have to fly down. You have to fly down to Nigeria.
That will be next year.
Next year, I look forward to that.
We will be happy to visit Nigeria next year. So no problem.
Of course.
Thanks to everyone. Philip, I can see you. Alexander Olariwaju, thank you. Philip Amulum, thank you. Ibrahim Ayat, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Oh, look.
Hello,
Philip,
Mr. Charles.
Okay, of course. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Joshua, thank you.
Joshua, you are
You're
there.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
I'm there.
hope to see you soon.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Philip.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Miss Alex.
Bye then.
Bye.
All right.
Mr. Balogun, where are you from, please? Mr. Balo.
Hello, sir.
Where are you from?
I'm in Nigeria.
I know you are a Nigerian. Where are you? Where are you in Nigeria?
Okay. No, I'm in UAE presently. I'm in UAE.
Oh, all right,
presently.
all right, all right. Nice meeting you.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Mansour. God don't catch you.
Let me go catch you. Now catch you.
No responsible.
You will go hide. Only God know where you hide.
No, I know hide though.
Ibrahim.
Prof, where have you been? Mr. Prof, Mr. Charles.
Sir. Hi.
Well done, sir.
Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you. Martin.
Mr. Thompson.
Easy Interglobal Limited. Charles Adamolekun. Chief Monsiru Adebayo.
Well done, Olubadan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank God.
I wish you all guys. The best. Do have a wonderful day.
And you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Really
Mr. Mozambique. Okay, we'll talk later. Thank you.
Easy enter.